What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another minisode of Dead Men Tell Tales. Hopefully, you listened to the last episode on Abe Rellies. I'm going to be your host through this one here, Steve. Like I said, last episode we covered Kid Twist. This episode is going to be quite explosive. Again, I'm not an expert, so if I get something wrong, I apologize. Please let me know. I'm not one that is not humble enough to admit when I fuck up. So please let me know. Without much waiting, let's get right into it here. Excuse me. It is April 11th, and you're at the Veterans and Friends Social Club in Diker Heights. Your man, Frank Bellino, asks for a lawyer's card. You tell him there's one in the car. You head out to your Buick, grabbing one. As he approaches your car, you may or may not hear the beeping sound. Not sure if there was or wasn't a beeping sound, but suddenly, yeah, you're no longer alive. You are the Gambino underboss, Frankie Cheech DeCicco. Born November 5th, 1935, in the Bath Beach area of Brooklyn, which obviously, if you know your mob lore, mob history, I'm sorry, you know that's another mob breeding ground. Safe to say, most of New York was mob breeding ground back in the days, so you you know. Anyhow, um, he grew up in the Bath Beach area, or yeah, born in the Bath Beach area of Brooklyn, but he grew up in the Staten Island area. He was around the mafia from day one, as his father was a soldier in the Gambino family. As most of I mean, to us now, they're old school guys, but guys that were the big mobsters in the '60s, the '70s, the '80s. They their parents were in the mob. Like that's what they did to win money. So it was kind of like if your dad's a lawyer, you're gonna be a lawyer. Back then, if your dad was a mobster, you're gonna be a mobster. That's how it was. Um, and so he went on record with the family in the late 1960s, being made shortly after that, hitting that coded soldier stature in the mob. Obviously, for those that don't know, once you hit that made point in the mob, you're pretty much untouchable by the common folk. Meaning, you're Joe Schmo on the street. If he touches you, if he beats you up, smacks you, whatever, eh, Joe Schmo in the street's no longer, well, he's going to be Joe Schmo in the street. That's what's going to happen. That's how it goes. Um, like I said, on record in the 1960s, made shortly after that. And once he got made, he teamed up with Gas Pipe Casso, which that man was a pure lunatic. That actually might be the next season, maybe. Mob Lunatics, maybe. We'll see. Anyway, he teamed up with him, started knocking over diamond dealers, and the Gambino favorite of hijacking trucks coming out of the docks in the airport. Um, Obviously, bringing in the cheddar he was bringing in, he got the eyes of the big players and soon became a protege to Big Paul Castellano. Frankie Cheech was a labor racketeer for Local 282 of the Teamsters, which obviously meant he held a no-show union organizer job, which in turn meant that other Gambino associates had no-show jobs in the Teamsters. That's the glamorous part about this. Yeah, you get paid to not show up. The no-show jobs, as they're called. That was the glamorous part of it. Now, at this point in Frank's career, he can start throwing some power around. He's been in it. He's got that weight to throw. 1978, he flexed that power. He ordered the murder of Nicholas Schivetta for insulting his cousin. I mean, talk about having your family's backs. Some of the cousins I don't like, I no. I'm sorry, I'm not gonna kill a man over that. It's not happening. Now, if you're one of the cousins I like, I'll beat the fucking brakes off of somebody for you. But obviously, back then, family was everything. So obviously, once you flex that power, it's going to become addicting. You're going to see it happen more. And in 1983, he flexed again, and this was by organizing the murder of Roy DeMeo. Um, Roy DeMeo was another one of the model lunatics. So If you know anything about DeMeo and the Gemini Lounge, you know what I'm talking about. Uh, Frank started to get quite the name on the street, as well as the respect of the fellow Gambino members, which in the mob world obviously puts you on the fast track to the big leagues and the big money. Um, you start gaining the respect of not only the soldiers, the other associates, the big heads. You fast track yourself, and that's how you do things. Um, so with that, 2 years after making sure DeMeo was, he was bye-bye, Frank assisted with the planning of, as it would be known later, the hit of the century, and that hit would be none other on that of Big Paul Castellano. The man who made Frank his protege. That's how it went. And in 1985, in December, it all went down outside Sparks Steakhouse. Um, Now, by doing this, Frank would become the underboss under the regime of John Gotti. Obviously, it wouldn't happen like that night, but within the months to come, Frank would become underboss. So obviously, he has that title with the power and the respect. Frank did it. Now, enter from stage left, Frank's fuck up. So the golden rule, and I mean golden fucking rule of the mafia, you do not, under any circumstance, kill a boss. You just don't. Like, you don't. History of the mob tells you that. Look at Joe Gallo. Look at, Albert Anastasia. Look at that. Like, they killed mob bosses. Look what happened to them. They did it without permission. What happened? They died. That's what happened. So that's he broke that rule. So with that, without that express commission, you don't make any kind of violence against a boss unless the commission's like, hey, yeah, it's cool. Well, Frank did, as well as Gotti. And since Big Paul had business deals, very lucrative business deals with other families, say Vincent the Chin and Tony Ducks, the targets on their backs were quite big. One would almost say they were fucking huge. Okay, I'm talking like fucking huge on their backs. So, a target so big, in fact, that Herbert Pate would take the shot, so to speak. Being sent by the Chin on April 13th, 1986, Pate drove up to the Veterans Friends and Socials Club to do a little grocery shopping at the grocery store near there. On the way back to his car, he happened to drop a bag of groceries, and in the process of picking them up, just so happened to plant a bomb under the Frank's Buick. So, when Frank came out with Bellino following him, Pate mistook him for Gotti and blew the car up. DeCicco was killed instantly. They say actually that the force of the blast was so great that it forced all of the liquid from his body, just leaving like Frank's shell. That's what they say. As we all know, Gotti had skipped the meeting that day. Otherwise, we wouldn't have all the stuff we have out on Gotti. But Gotti wasn't there, and that was that. Otherwise, the Gambino family tree would have taken a different route. The crazy part about this, Bellino only lost a few toes from the explosion, which just fucking baffles me. Blows my mind. No pun intended there. But it is said they used the bomb to make it look like the Zips, or the Sicilians, as the American Mafia would call them, did the bombing, because in that time, Sicilian Mafia, they did a lot of bombings. They that's how they handled their stuff. So the American Mafia didn't do that, obviously, because of civilians, innocents in the way, but they wanted to make it look like that's what happened. So, as with most gangsters of that time, Frank was denied a mass by the diocese. That just, church was like, no, you did evil shit. It's not happening. You ain't getting your mass. Bye. So that is, he's buried in the Moravian Cemetery, and that's Frank DeCicco, everybody, the underboss of the Gambino family. He went bye-bye. So that's going to do it for this minisode. Like I said, I hope you guys learned something, or at least killed the time you were trying to kill. If you haven't already, as always, hit that subscribe button, as we are trying to get out 2 of these videos a week. So make sure you hit that subscribe. The way we get those views up there. Make sure you hit share or tell somebody about it. Somebody that just likes to learn random stuff, kill some time watching YouTube videos. Tell them about it. Help us out. Make sure you definitely check out the podcast as well, as we are doing some big stuff on there. And until we all talk again, hope y'all have a great one. Peace.